your customers the opportunity to teach you.
It's a word that's on the lips of every executive.
Who's managing that asset?
The heart of any strategy is the customer value proposition. The shareholder wants growth, the shareholder wants you to manage risk, but then the question is, well, how am I going to grow? How am I going to balance risk? And the answer to that always comes back to the customer. Who are my customers and why do they want to do business with me?
We have to change our mood from a teaching mood more to a listening mood.
We would like to establish true, stable relationship.
I like to work with clients who believe in mutuality of interest.
One of the things that we need to remember is that instead of thinking in terms of selling a customer a product, that we need to think about what that customer is trying to do.
So it's critical that you have a clear understanding of the value proposition. You cannot be all things to all people. You can't have low cost, high relationships, and innovative products. You got to figure out what it is that makes you different and then make everything consistent with that.
One of the problems that we run into is that each product division in a company will typically think of a customer as their customer.
The problem at most business-to-business organizations is that the salespeople carry that relationship in their heads. And if the salesman gets hit by a truck or goes to the competition, or if you bring a new person in who needs to be trained in to that kind of operating, there's no good knowledge transfer mechanism. The relationship is owned by the salesperson or the client manager and not by Swissre.
For the core clients in the insurance industry, it's difficult for me to imagine different client philosophy. I think that you can only have one way to look at a client. There may be clients which are bigger or smaller, and thus which have more dialogue or more important problems than others, but the client philosophy, the type of position between the client and Swissre is something that I think should be unique and consistent.
I think a critical question for a business unit head is, how does CRM fit into my business unit strategy? And I guess I'd like to talk about that a little bit, because every business unit might have a slightly different take on its strategic advantage. For some business units, your advantage might come from your operational efficiency. You have a scale of operations that has driven costs down, and you're a cost minimizer. And if that's your strategy, if that's your competitive advantage, CRM allows you to rationalize your resources, to align your resources so that you apply relatively fewer resources to the very low value or high cost customers and more resources to the very high profit, low cost customers.
Do you know who your most valuable 50 customers are?
Another business unit might be focused on product excellence. They might pride themselves on always having the innovative instrument, the unprecedented financial instrument, some kind of derivative with no history, and they're always unique, and so always keeping one step ahead of the competition, and that's their success. Well, for that kind of a company, they need to be nimble and flexible. They don't want scale, right? That kind of a strategy is incompatible with operational efficiency. You want nimbleness and flexibility. And what else do you want? You want to be close to the market. You want to know what customers need, and you want to know it now. You want to know it before your competitors. You want CRM to give you real-time feedback on how customers are using an instrument, or what they think of the instrument, or what else they need. So what's the next sort of trend?
Isn't it time for us to get up every morning and ask ourselves, what competitive advantage do we have from the information that we have?
And then the other kind of strategy might come from the scope of your customer relationships. You have some business units where they might offer, and this is probably true of swissre Enterprise at the enterprise level, where you have a basket of services and products that you're offering to your customers. And basically what you want to do is you want to increase the scope of relationship you have with any particular customer. And here, customer relationship management is necessary because these are the situations where you want the customer to tell you something about how they want to be treated individually. You remember that and you increase your scope of relationship with that particular customer. So no matter what kind of strategy you're following, CRM has different things to contribute to different business units.
Think about what executing strategy means. It means that everybody in the organization has to change. It means new values, new training, new technology, new skills. Everything has to change. So how do you mobilize an organization to change everything simultaneously? Well, if you try to do it from the inside out, you have the old world getting in the way, the old power structures, the old silos, the old ways of doing things. But if you start from the customer in, you got a new judge and a new jury. It's the customer.
How willing is a client to give us information about his business and about the way we can help and about the kinds of needs he has, even beyond the kinds of things we can do for him, what his objectives are? Because the more we can know about a client, then the more we can give him something he's not going to be able to get from a competitor.
It should not depend on the skills the client manager has by chance, but there is such a variety of experts and skills in our company, and we have to manage to get this really onto the spot.
In a B2B setting, frequently we can afford to have face-to-face conversations with customers. But you know what? A web interaction with the customer can sometimes be even richer and more productive than a face-to-face conversation.
One of the most important lessons that we can learn in our one-to-one B2B efforts is that we have to be willing to let go of the clients who are not worth as much as the other clients.
A client is only a client if we have genuine, profitable business with that counterparty. If a client has been permanently a money-losing counterparty, why do we call it a client?
Do we know for certain today who our most valuable customers are? For many companies, that's quite simply the customers where today we're getting our greatest revenue. But wouldn't it be more interesting if we could think in terms of where our most valuable customers are going to be tomorrow, who they're going to be? Wouldn't it be interesting if we had an idea of who they could be, if only we could get business away from some of the other competitors that they might be doing business with today?
we shouldn't try to imagine, in my opinion, that every client relationship is one that we need to discuss across all the business groups.
There was a meeting recently of swissre with 7 of their top people from all over the world meeting with a client. And that was the first time that those 7 people, who all had the same client, had ever met or heard of each other.
As client relationship management is one of the key elements, one of the strategic key elements in globalization of Swiss Re, and will help us in expanding ourselves in the client relationships, in approaching the clients, again, and maximizing intelligence of people and ability of us to offering to clients more and more integrated portfolio from the services that Swiss Re has. The more and more we're focusing on how to support the people with the right ingredients of information to supply this information at the right time with the right quality, with the right level of understanding to people who need this information in order to make the qualified decisions.
The quality of the decision is entirely dependent upon the quality of the information that leads to the decision. And Swiss Re, in its long traditions of having remarkable information database for the risk, has to add, I perceive, a much better information level as far as its clients are concerned.
Now, do they want global? Do they want multi-local? Do they want national? It varies from customer to customer, but I think global knowledge is an asset.
Swiss Re has been managing intangible assets forever. I mean, that is your product. You have always been a new economy company, even in the old economy.
For the clients, the question is, are we translating or are we able to communicate that image of being global as much as we would wish?
Integrity, trust, professionalism. These are important to the way we live our lives.
I think that Swiss Re has really got a chance here, to write the new books on management, to be at the leading edge of this new economy. And it's a challenge, I think, from all that I know about you, that you're stepping up to.
So the ability to learn their needs and the ability to help grow their value to you by increasing your value to them performs an enormously important service in an area in which there are only really 3 other competitors.
I can tell you, client relation management is key for me in the business group.
So it's not just having the right strategy, it's being able to actually do it, to execute it. And from what I've seen, Swiss Re has no shortage of motive and no shortage of competence. They ought to be up to it.